Imagine waking up one day and realizing the last 5 years of your life have looked almost the same. You had dreams, big plans, bold ideas. But somehow, they faded into the background. You kept telling yourself you'd start soon, that you were just waiting for the right time. But the truth? Life moved on. And you were still waiting, quietly vanishing into a life on pause. This isn't failure, it's not even fear. It's something far more subtle and far more dangerous. It's passivity, not laziness, not weakness, but the invisible habit of doing nothing while convincing yourself you're being patient. You don't feel broken. You just feel stuck. Stuck in routines, stuck in hesitation, stuck in a cycle where nothing truly changes. And here's the twist. What if the thing holding you back isn't fear, but comfort? By the end of this video, you'll not only understand how passivity operates, but you'll know exactly how to break free from it. Let's begin. Part 1. What is passivity? Really, passivity is one of the most deceptive forces in your life because it doesn't feel like a threat. It doesn't scream, it whispers. Like a friend, like a soft voice telling you, just wait. Now's not the time. Let's think it through a little longer. At first, it feels reasonable, like caution, like patience. But beneath the surface, it's avoidance in disguise. It convinces you that standing still is safer than moving forward. That delay is wisdom. That overthinking is being responsible. But passivity isn't careful. It's paralyzing. And slowly, it steals more than just time. It chips away at your confidence, your courage, your momentum. It's like a slow leak in your potential. You don't notice it until everything feels heavy and you don't know why. You miss opportunities because you hesitate. You stay in situations you've outgrown because you wait. And over time, your brain starts to believe that this is just who you are. That's the most dangerous part. Passivity doesn't just keep you stuck, it erodes your identity until you forget there was ever a different version of you. You start to say things like, "I've always been this way. I'm just not a take-action kind of person." And you believe it because the habit of waiting eventually becomes your default. But passivity is not your personality. It's a pattern, a quiet thief that robs you of clarity, boldness, and the momentum you could have built. And the longer you let it linger, the harder it becomes to notice it all. Because it feels comfortable. It feels safe. But what it really is the slow death of the life you were meant to live. So if passivity is the trap, then where does it come from? Let's go deeper. Part 2. Learned helplessness. Why we stop trying. Why do we stop trying, even when we want to move forward? The answer may lie in a powerful psychological concept, learned helplessness. In the 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman ran an experiment. He placed dogs in a cage with an electric floor. At first, they tried to escape, but they couldn't, no matter what they did. Eventually, when the barrier was removed and freedom was possible, they didn't even try to leave. They just lay down, defeated. They had learned, my actions don't matter. Now apply this to real life. You apply to jobs, get rejected. You open up in relationships, get hurt. You start a creative project, nobody notices. You begin to think, what's the point? Nothing I do really changes anything. This mindset doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, quietly, one disappointment at a time. And before you know it, you've stopped trying altogether. Not because you're lazy, but because you've been conditioned to believe effort is meaningless. This is the true cost of failure when it goes unprocessed. It doesn't just hurt in the moment. It installs a belief that paralyzes you for years. And the scariest part? You don't even realize it's happening. You just start saying, "I'll wait a bit. I'll try later. Now's not the time." But those are just echoes of learned helplessness. The brain's way of avoiding the pain of another failure by doing nothing at all. Here's the truth. Failure doesn't destroy us. Believing that effort is useless, that's what keeps us stuck. But failure isn't the only force that paralyzes us. There's something else, something more subtle and far more seductive. It's called comfort. And it might just be the most dangerous trap of all. Part 3. The comfort trap. If failure trains us to stop trying, comfort convinces us not to start. Unlike fear or pain, comfort doesn't feel like a problem. In fact, it feels like relief. It feels safe, familiar, predictable. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Because comfort is a trap dressed as reward. Think about it. You stay in a job that drains you because the pay is steady. You stay in a relationship that feels dull because the thought of starting over is too overwhelming. You hold on to habits you know are hurting you because at least they're familiar. Comfort says, "You're okay right here. Why risk more?" Growth says, "This isn't who you were meant to be." And your brain? It's wired to side with comfort. From an evolutionary standpoint, the human brain was designed to seek safety, to conserve energy, to avoid unnecessary risks. Because in the past, a bad decision could mean death. But today, it's different. Now, those risks are the very things that could change your life. Starting the business, saying what you really feel, taking a leap of faith. But instead, your brain whispers, "Let's just wait. Let's not make things harder." And so, you stay. Not because you're happy, but because you're used to it. That's the comfort trap. It's not that things are good. They're just not bad enough to force action. And this kind of almost okay life is the most dangerous place to be. Because it doesn't wake you up. It lulls you to sleep. It steals years, slowly. Not through failure, but through settling. And here's the truth. No one builds a meaningful life by staying comfortable. You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when you step into the unknown. So, what happens when we let comfort make our choices? What's the real cost of staying safe, still, and silent? Let's find out. Part 4. The real cost of passivity. What does passivity really steal from you? It's not just lost time. It's not just missed opportunities. It's meaning. Psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that the primary drive of human beings isn't pleasure or power. It's purpose. A deep, inner sense that our life matters, that our actions have weight, that we are here for a reason. But passivity cuts the thread between us and that purpose. It places us in a holding pattern, endlessly waiting, endlessly hesitating, until life begins to feel flat, disconnected, and empty. You don't have to fall apart to lose yourself. You can simply stand still for too long. There's a saying, most people don't burn out. They rust out. Not through chaos, but through quiet decay. Ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly alive? Not busy, not entertained, but alive. Engaged, energized, purposeful. Chances are, it wasn't during a moment of waiting. It wasn't during comfort. It wasn't when you were being careful. It was when you took a risk, said what needed to be said, started before you felt ready, moved, even when it scared you. That's what passivity robs you of. It doesn't just keep you safe, it keeps you small. And over time, the cost compounds, until the version of you that once had dreams, ambition, and fire becomes a distant memory. So if we know passivity drains meaning, why don't we break out of it? Why do we stay stuck, even when we know we're meant for more? Let's dig deeper. Part 5. Identity paralysis, the trap you can't see. Sometimes the thing keeping you stuck isn't your habits. It's your identity. You don't just hesitate because of fear or failure. You hesitate because somewhere deep down, you've convinced yourself, this is just who I am. I've never been good at following through. I've always struggled with discipline. That's just how I operate. This is what psychologists call identity paralysis. It's when your current behavior, your patterns of hesitation, distraction, or avoidance, get mistaken for your permanent truth. And the more you repeat those behaviors, the more you believe they define you. But that's a lie. Your behavior is not your identity. It's just your current pattern. And patterns can be changed. Psychologist Carol Dweck identified this through her concept of fixed versus growth mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their abilities, intelligence, and traits are static, unchangeable, set in stone. So they avoid challenges because failure would expose their limits. But people with a growth mindset, they believe they can learn, evolve, adapt. They understand that skill is developed, not inherited. That courage is built, not born. Now apply this to your own life. If you tell yourself, I'm not a confident person, you'll keep acting in ways that protect that identity. You won't speak up. You won't try new things. Not because you can't, but because you believe that you're not supposed to. That's the trap. Your belief about who you are becomes the lock. That keeps you from changing. You don't need better habits first. You need a new internal narrative. And that brings us to the next step. If identity is the lock, then what's the key? How do we shift how we see ourselves so we can finally shift how we live? Let's explore it. Part 6. Identity-based action. How to break the pattern. If identity is the trap, then identity-based action is how you break out. Author James Clear in Atomic Habits said it best. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. In other words, you don't change by setting big goals. You change by proving to yourself in small ways who you are becoming. Here's the mistake most people make. They try to change their behavior without changing how they see themselves. They say, I want to be healthier. But deep down, they still see themselves as someone who's inconsistent. They say, I want to be confident. But they still carry the identity of the person who always stayed quiet. So what happens? The new actions don't stick because they conflict with the old self-image. The solution? You flip it. You act from identity, not toward it. You don't wait to become disciplined. You ask, what would a disciplined person do today? And then, you do that. You don't have to believe it 100% yet. You just need to start voting for the future version of yourself. You get up when you said you would. You show up when you feel insecure. You write one paragraph, even if it's not perfect. These aren't small acts. They're identity votes. And the more you cast them, the more your belief shifts from, I hope I can, to, this is who I am now. Think of it this way. You're not just building better habits. You're introducing yourself to a version of you that you haven't fully met yet. Start acting like that version now, because confidence doesn't come from waiting. It comes from evidence that you're becoming someone different. And it's not about perfection. It's about consistency. Momentum is identity in motion. But now you may ask, if this is who I want to become, how do I actually start? How do I act when the fear, the hesitation, the old programming still scream louder than the version I want to grow into? That's where we go next. Part 7. The 5-second rule and the discipline shift. By now you might be thinking, how do I actually get myself to move, especially when I don't feel like it? That's where discipline comes in. Not motivation, not inspiration. Discipline, because motivation is a feeling. It's inconsistent. It fades. And if you wait for it to show up before acting, you'll stay stuck, waiting forever. Discipline means you act anyway, even when you don't feel like it, especially then. One of the simplest tools to train this comes from author Mel Robbins. It's called the 5-second rule. Here's how it works. The moment you feel an instinct to act, to speak up, to move, to start, you count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Then you move, immediately, before your brain starts making excuses. It works because it cuts through overthinking, it interrupts hesitation, and it hands control back to you. Pair that with another simple shift. Make the first step ridiculously easy. Want to write? Just open the document. Want to get fit? Do one push-up. Want to stop scrolling? Set a timer for 10 distraction-free minutes. The goal isn't to finish something huge. It's to start something small. Because action is what builds momentum. And here's the secret. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. You don't wait until you feel ready. You act. Then the readiness shows up. That's how you retrain your brain to follow your decisions, not your excuses. You go from living in reaction to living by intent. But even with discipline and small wins, there's still one thing holding people back. A deeper force most never notice. Let's look at that next. Part 8. Emotional resistance. Why action feels so hard. Let's be honest. What holds you back isn't always logic. It's emotion. You know what to do. You've made the plan. But when it's time to act, you hesitate. Something tightens inside. You freeze. That's not weakness. It's emotional resistance, and it's biological. Your brain is wired to protect you. The amygdala, your brain's fear center, kicks in the moment you face discomfort. And it doesn't care whether the threat is physical or emotional. To your brain, speaking up, quitting your job, or posting that video can feel just as dangerous as a real threat. Unknown equals unsafe. And the brain avoids unsafe. That's why action feels hard. Especially when it requires becoming a new version of yourself. You're not just changing habits. You're challenging identity. You fear judgment. You fear failure. But beneath it all, you fear transformation. Because becoming someone new means letting go of who you were. And the old self resists that. So what's the solution? You don't wait to eliminate fear. You build psychological flexibility, the ability to act even when you're uncomfortable. Every time you do something despite the fear, you retrain your brain. You prove, I can move forward without having all the answers. I can feel fear and still grow. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means refusing to obey it. And like any skill, it grows through practice. Not in one big moment, but through daily, repeated proof that you're stronger than hesitation. And now, it's time for the final mindset shift. The belief that ends passivity at its root and gives you full authority over your life. Let's finish this. Part 9. Radical Responsibility, the ultimate breakthrough. Here's the truth most people never want to admit. Your life is your responsibility. Not your parents, not your boss, not your past. Yours. This is what we call radical responsibility. The moment you stop blaming, stop waiting, and start taking full ownership of your actions, your outcomes, and your future. It's not about guilt, it's about power. Because when you stop giving your power away, you get it all back. No more waiting for motivation. No more searching for the perfect plan. No more saying, "I'm just not ready." Jeff Bezos once said that if you wait for 100% certainty before making a decision, you'll always be too late. He believed in acting at 70% clarity, because clarity comes from doing, not from thinking. Thomas Edison, when asked about failing thousands of times, replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not just resilience, that's responsibility in action. And it's what separates those who build lives of momentum from those who stay stuck in the loop of hesitation. Because let's be honest, it's not lack of time, it's not lack of talent, it's not even fear. It's the lie that you need something more before you start. More clarity, more motivation, more permission. But you don't need any of those things. You just need to move. Action comes first. Motivation follows. And when you embrace this, when you fully own the fact that you are in control, everything changes. You stop being the victim of your story. You become the author of it. So the question becomes, what will you do with this clarity? Let's talk about that next. The shift starts now. Passivity is not weakness. It's not laziness, it's habit. A deeply wired, well-practiced habit. But here's the good news. Habits can be broken. And better ones can be built, starting today. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to move. Because the smallest action today is more powerful than the perfect plan tomorrow. So if something in this video sparked you, if you're done with waiting and ready to lead your own momentum, comment below. I choose action over hesitation. Make it your declaration. Your shift begins now. And don't stop here. In the next video, we'll help you build your unstoppable morning routine. A momentum loop that rewires how you start every single day. Let's turn clarity into movement. Let's begin.